certainly how things have changed. If you look at these numbers and graphs of December 2019, it looks like things are actually going along pretty well. Unfortunately, coronavirus and the associated economic fallout certainly has made the lives of many people rather bad. As this poor old guy illustrates, it looks as if despite all the creative chaos and uncertainty of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we may simply just die of a simple handshake nowadays. As discussed before, we have developed the Organized Change Strategic Planning and Change Management model that shows how to use scenario planning as part of a plan to improve your organization. In this presentation, we will just talk about Level 1, Planning and Anticipating the Future. What are scenarios? Scenarios are potential features that take into account global, regional, industry, and organizational trends. They use factors to develop alternatives about what might happen. They also use signposts and indicators to give a heads up that a scenario might come about. Some advantages of scenarios is that they don't assume the future will be like the past. They allow for unexpected events that just looking at trends will not do. They allow for flexibility in planning. They are adjustable when new data or opportunities come along, and are excellent starting points for strategic planning. When should you use scenarios? On the x-axis, you can see the severity of a problem based upon the assessment the steering committee does, which can range from low to high. You can also see the y-axis goes from a problem that only affects a few people to a problem that affects the whole company or organization. When problems only affect a relatively few number of people and the severity of problem is relatively low, there is relatively little urgent need for sudden change. Level 4 techniques are appropriate, such things as hiring, firing, and training people, for example. On the other hand, is that when there are a fair proportion of the organization is affected and affects several groups, Level 3 changes might be necessary. These Level 3 changes might include restructuring, major policy changes, or significant efforts in the change selection and reward systems of the organization. Based upon an assessment, if the severity of problem is very high, Level 2 techniques might be used. That is, such things as strategic planning and refining and defining the mission and conducting a SWOT analysis. This may also include looking at acquisitions, divestments, significant outsourcing of non-core capabilities. This may also include scenario planning that may put the current function and purpose of the organization depending upon which particular scenario comes about. One of the questions in scenarios involves the time horizon. In some particular cases, the time horizon is immediate, and that might answer such questions as, what do we need to do to keep safe, and what do we need to do to keep in business? The other short-term scenarios might include on how do we stabilize cash flow, resources, supply chains, customers, and deal with new regulations. In the intermediate and long term, you can start looking at scenarios that might include larger industry trends as well as macroeconomic issues. Some of the factors affecting scenarios include political issues, economic issues, social demographic issues, technological issues, competitive issues, disruptive business models, and the degree and pace of change. Based upon these, you can develop a scenario matrix with these factors on the left and various scenarios that might happen across the top. Each cell becomes a story about what might happen, along with its signposts and indicators. Since so many recent events have focused on the economy as how it relates to COVID, here are some potential recovery options. Which of these comes about is an open question, but I wish to focus on two. T-shaped recovery is where there is a sudden loss of GDP and job growth, but economically it rapidly accelerates back to what it was before. This may be everyone's dream, especially the politicians, but this is an unlikely event to occur. The likeliest scenario is what's called the K-shaped recovery. For those people who are in high-tech professions and highly skilled professions, the recovery will probably be more rapid. For those in the hospitality industry and low-level services, their recovery may be long and slow, may never recover to what it was before.